The courtroom went silent the moment my grandson pressed play. His mother's voice filled the air, sharp, careless, caught on his phone the night before. "Stop packing. Once this is settled, we're moving to Phoenix. Your grandmother won't matter anymore." 12 years old, pale from too many sleepless nights, Owen stood there alone against his own mother, exposing her plan to cut him off, to cash in on the trust his father had left behind. My hands trembled, not from shock, I'd suspected, but from the cruelty of watching a boy forced to betray his mother just to survive. That was the moment everything shattered. And to understand how we ended up here, grandmother against daughter-in-law, child caught between love and betrayal, you have to go back to the days after my son's death, when grief was still raw and Owen's safety was already slipping through my fingers. My name is Nora Bennett. I am 62 years old, and on that gray morning in Astoria, Oregon, I sat in the cold courtroom of Clatsop County with my grandson by my side. The drizzle outside blurred the old suspension bridge across the Columbia River, and the chill of the weather seemed to seep through the courthouse walls. My silver hair was pulled into a tight bun, my navy cardigan hugging my shoulders as though it alone could steady me. Beside me, Owen, only 11, looked so small in the oversized navy blazer his aunt had pressed for him. His backpack rested against the bench, the edge of his glucose monitor visible at his waist like a silent reminder of how fragile he really was. The judge had barely finished the opening remarks when Sloane Reed, my late son's widow and Owen's mother, rose from her chair. She was 34, her posture practiced, her voice trembling but determined. "My son wants to live with me," she declared, her words echoing in the room. I clenched my rough hands together, bracing myself. Courts favored biological parents. No matter how many nights Owen had slept under my roof, no matter the meals I had cooked when his mother was gone, the law did not bend easily for grandmothers. The room held its breath when Owen suddenly pushed himself up from the bench. "Your Honor," he said softly, his voice cracking but steadying with each syllable. "May I show you something?" Murmurs swept through the gallery. Even Sloane's eyes flickered with unease. From his pocket, Owen pulled out his phone. His small fingers navigated quickly to a file. "This is from my glucose monitor," he explained. On the screen appeared a series of red warnings spanning 2 months, alerts of dangerous nighttime drops in blood sugar, each left unanswered. Then came the detail that cut like a blade. Our attorney, Marisol Chen, projected the data on the courtroom screen. The timestamps of the alarms aligned exactly with photos Sloane had posted on social media. Smiling selfies at late-night parties with her boyfriend, Rafe Lugo. The silence was deafening. Judge Keating leaned forward, his lined face hardening as he shifted his gaze to Sloane. Her confident mask faltered. My heart pounded with equal parts sorrow and awe. My grandson, barely a teenager, was exposing his own mother in open court. He was doing it not to shame her, but to save himself. By the time the gavel struck, the ruling was clear. Custody of Owen would be placed temporarily with me until further investigation. Outside the courtroom, Sloane's eyes burned with fury as she hissed, "This isn't over. I'll get him back." I held Owen's hand tightly, his grip surprisingly strong for such a frail boy. He looked up at me with steady eyes and whispered, "I just want to be safe, Grandma." That night the rain tapped a steady rhythm on the tin roof of my cafe by the harbor, a sound that usually soothed me, but the air inside felt heavier than the storm outside. The cafe was empty, chairs stacked against the wall, the faint hum of the clock hands marking each passing second. A single lamp cast its golden glow across the brick wall, and I sat hunched at the old wooden table where Caleb once liked to drink his coffee. In my hands lay a printout of an email, its red stamp glaring at me like a wound. Invalid witness signature. It was Caleb's attempt to update his guardianship wishes, naming me as Owen's caregiver if anything happened. But because he'd signed it in a rush during a hurricane evacuation, without proper witnesses, the law would not honor it. Marisol Chen, my attorney, sat across from me, her voice measured but unflinching. "I'm sorry, Nora. It won't stand in court. Sloane is still the legal parent." Her words landed like stones in my chest. I stared at the page, feeling as if the shield Caleb had tried to place around his son had just crumbled into dust. The love and intent were there, but the law only saw the missing ink of a signature. At the counter, Owen worked on his math homework, head bent, his pencil scratching across the paper. The glow from his glucose monitor blinked faintly at his hip. That tiny flash of light reminded me why I couldn't surrender, no matter how hopeless it seemed. He was just a boy trying to stay afloat, and I was the only one who could keep him safe. Marisol's brow furrowed as she flipped through her notes, then paused. "There's something odd," she murmured. She had traced the anonymous report sent to Child Protective Services, accusing me of misusing Owen's insurance money. Her search revealed the truth. The IP address led straight to a newly registered event company, the same one rented under Rafe Lugo's name, Sloane's new boyfriend. The realization hit like a cold wave. This was no longer just a bitter custody fight between a grandmother and a mother. It was a calculated scheme, driven by greed, targeting the trust fund Caleb left behind for his son. I turned to look at Owen, still scribbling notes on his homework, blissfully unaware of the snares tightening around him. A vow ignited in my chest, hot and unyielding. No matter how many walls they built, I would tear through every one of them to protect this boy. March draped Astoria in silver drizzle. The streets glazed with neon. Sloane's apartment hunched over the river, its windows stained by the bar's flicker. Inside, damp carpet and a draft chilled the rooms. Guardian ad litem, Thomas Keating stood near the bookshelf, notepad balanced in his palm, gaze moving like a metronome from kitchen to couch. He was there to observe, to decide whether this place could hold a boy safely. By court order, Owen had to spend the weekend with his mother. Sloane welcomed him with a lacquered smile. "We'll have quality time," she promised. Minutes later, a red dress fanned across her bed. The curling iron hissed, and Rafe's name kept lighting her phone. Owen sat at a wobbling table, math book open, pencil stalled above a problem he already knew. The yellow blink at his hip kept pulsing, the CGM's quiet warning. Saturday night slid into crisis. The alarm began to shriek, a drop, then a steeper drop. Owen called out, voice thin, but the only answer was the slap of the door. He shuffled into the hallway, vision tunneling and crumpled. A neighbor heard the thud, sprinted over and lifted the boy into his pickup, tires cutting a ribbon through the rain toward the ER. Under the ER's hard lights, nurses moved fast. Dextrose, vitals, warm blankets. The intake form carried a black line that clenched every heart. Minor admitted with no guardian present. When Keating arrived, his jaw set like stone, and he began to write. By morning, the footage was pulled. The hallway camera showed Sloane leaving nearly 90 minutes before Owen collapsed. In court, she lashed out. "Nora staged this to make me look unfit." But the hospital charts, the CGM log, and the time-stamped video braided into one truth that would not bend. Keating's recommendation was crisp and final. Evidence of severe neglect. Restrict maternal custody. That night, Nora held Owen's cool hand beside the beeping monitors. Looking at his exhausted face, she understood the shape of the war, not paperwork, not pride, survival. She promised herself she would not lose another child to the river, to the night, to anyone's neglect, ever again. The cafe by the harbor, once a hub of chatter and warmth, had grown eerily quiet. Salt wind pressed against the fog glass, rattling the frames as if echoing the storm inside Nora's chest. On her phone, a campaign spread like wildfire. Cruel grandmother steals her grandson from his grieving mother. Old photos of Caleb with Sloane were spliced together, captions dripping with sentiment, crafted to stir outrage. Nora sat behind the counter, scrolling through each venomous comment. Greedy old woman, clinging to control of the trust fund. Her hands shook, and the phone slipped slightly before she steadied it. Overnight, a flood of one-star reviews had crushed her cafe's rating. The register stayed silent. Chairs remained empty. When Owen spotted one of the posts, his cheeks flushed with fury. "She's lying about you, about me too." His voice cracked with both rage and pain. Nora rested a firm hand on his shoulder. "Don't let it poison you, sweetheart. The truth will speak for us." Marisol's warning echoed in her mind. "Don't answer online. Let the evidence fight back." But the attacks didn't stay digital. One stormy night, Nora woke to the crash of waves slamming against the pier. Heart hammering, she rushed outside. There, in the churn of the tide, Caleb's wooden boat lurched wildly, rope severed, drifting toward the rocks. It was the only relic of her son, built by his hands, his initials carved near the stern. Panic seized her as she and a neighbor wrestled the vessel back, the hull splintering under the strain. She pressed her palm to the cracked timber, as though holding Caleb's memory together. Breathless, the neighbor pointed toward his porch camera. The grainy footage showed a truck idling by the dock at the precise moment the rope had been cut. Though blurred by rain, the license plate aligned with one seen at Rafe Lugo's events. For the first time, suspicion hardened into a lead, tying him to the sabotage. Later, Nora sat alone, the broken plank across her knees, rain still dripping down her sleeves. She traced the soaked wood with her calloused fingers, tears cutting through her resolve. In a hoarse whisper, she vowed, "They want to erase even the memory of my son, but they will not win." Morning fog clung to the harbor, the air damp and heavy with salt. Nora stepped outside just in time to see Sloane and Rafe in the courtyard of their apartment complex, hurriedly loading suitcases into the back of a black SUV. Owen trailed behind, his backpack sagging on his shoulders, steps slow and hesitant. His eyes flickered with a guarded awareness that pierced Nora's chest. Instinct told her this wasn't a short trip. No matter what Sloane claimed, the truth surfaced quickly. Hidden among the luggage was evidence of a larger scheme. Sloane and Rafe had already signed a contract for an event in Austin, Texas, titled Family Story, Resilience, and Triumph. In the trunk lay glossy posters, bright and polished, showing Sloane's staged smile with her hand on Owen's shoulder. Bold letters proclaimed, "Mother and son, starting over." The message was clear: her son's illness, his survival, was about to become their ticket to money and attention. Owen felt the weight of what was unfolding, remembering his father Caleb's words from their kayaking lessons. "When you're swept off course, let the signal guide you home." He quietly reached into his backpack. With a steady hand, he pressed the small beacon his father had given him, its location ping beaming straight to Nora's phone. Back at the cafe, the device buzzed urgently, the sound slicing through the quiet room. Nora's hands shook, but her voice was firm as she called the police. The SUV never reached its destination. At the Portland airport lot, officers intercepted it. Guardian ad litem. Thomas Keating arrived just in time to witness Sloane's tears spill as she cried, "I just wanted him to start a new life." But when the trunk was opened, the truth spilled out: posters, contracts, proof that Owen was to be paraded as a fundraising spectacle, not protected as a child. Keating's face darkened as he recorded his notes. His recommendation to the court was swift: restrict Sloane's ability to move the boy across state lines. Later, in the aftermath, Nora wrapped her arms around Owen, her tears soaking his hair. The boy whispered against her shoulder, steady and sure, "I did what Dad taught me. I wasn't going to let them take me." For the first time, Nora realized it was Owen's courage that had saved them both. The courthouse sweltered under the early summer heat, fans turning lazily overhead as sweat dampened collars. Every seat was filled, the air charged with expectation. Nora sat ramrod straight beside Marisol Chen, her nerves taut but her gaze steady. Across the aisle, Sloane glowed with painted confidence. Her lipstick bold, her posture rehearsed, as if the costume of a dutiful mother could undo the weeks of evidence against her. Guardian ad litem Thomas Keating rested his notepad on his knee, already prepared to record the outcome. Sloane moved first. "Your Honor," she announced, pressing play on a tablet. The video flickered to life. Owen, hair messy, pajamas sagging, sat on the edge of his bed. His voice faltered. "I want to live with Mom." Gasps rippled across the courtroom. Nora's heart stopped. She recognized the pallor of his face, the sweat beading along his temple. That wasn't consent. It was collapse. Marisol rose swiftly, voice slicing through the tension. Metadata, please. A technician confirmed the timestamp aligned with Owen's glucose logs. He had been in severe hypoglycemia at that very moment. Marisol's words were cold steel. This was not a free choice. This was exploitation of a medical crisis. Silence pressed down, until Owen, trembling, pushed himself to his feet. His small voice rose clear. I don't want to shame my mom. I have another recording, but I won't use it. I just want to be safe. Every head turned. The judge leaned back, eyes softening. Keating scribbled a single line. The child chooses safety with his grandmother. Sloane's composure crumbled. She wailed, voice raw. That's not true. He's mine. She surged forward before her lawyer restrained her. The judge's gavel cracked like thunder, commanding silence. The battle was at its breaking point. The reckoning was only breaths away. The courtroom sagged under the weight of hours. Papers scattered, voices hoarse, eyes rimmed with fatigue. The judge removed his glasses, rubbed the bridge of his nose, and spoke evenly. Final evidence. The hush was absolute. Marisol stood, shoulders squared, her tone unwavering. We obtained this email, written by Rafe Lugo to an Austin sponsor. She read aloud. Audience loves a comeback story. We can monetize his condition through sponsor deals. The words detonated in the silence. Sloane's mouth fell open. Rafe, absent but implicated, was stripped bare on the page. No one could pretend this was about care. It was profit cloaked in family. Thomas Keating rose slowly, each word deliberate. Owen has not been protected. He has been packaged. That is not parenting, it is exploitation. His statement was damning, final. The judge's gavel fell hard. Custody is awarded to Nora Bennett. Rafe Lugo is barred from any contact. Sloane Reed may request visitation only with medical supervision and after completing a parenting course. The balance tipped decisively at last. Then Nora stood. Her voice was tired but firm. I will provide Sloane with modest support, as long as she keeps Owen free of conflict, Marisol added crisply. Under NDA, this story will not be used for profit. The judge nodded, sealing the terms. Sloane's hand shook as she signed, ink blotting under falling tears. Before leaving, she turned, voice frayed. Does he ever ask about me? Nora met her eyes without flinching. He still hopes you'll learn how to be a mother. Summer sunlight gilded the Columbia, sails glowing white against the sky as music carried across the crowded shore. On a small stage, clarinets and violins wove together, each note bright and full, a sound of healing and renewal. The festival was alive with laughter and applause, the river shimmering as though it, too, had joined the song. Beyond the performance, life had quietly reshaped itself. What once was fragile had become steady. What once was fractured had found ways to mend. A cafe that once served only coffee now offered something more. A place for weary parents to share burdens, for children to find belonging, for strangers to discover common ground. Within its walls hung stories of endurance, lessons carved from hardship, and reminders that no trial is wasted if it teaches love. From far away came words written in unsteady ink, not to reopen wounds, but to admit that even brokenness seeks dignity. And quietly, in the presence of memory, forgiveness planted roots, not as surrender, but as strength. The story closes not on triumph over others, but on the deeper victory of choosing safety, compassion, and resilience over fear and pride. It reminds us that family is not defined by blood alone, but by presence, by those who stay, by those who show up when it matters most. Healing, like the tide, comes in waves. It erodes, it reshapes, and at last it smooths the jagged stones into something enduring. And now, as the clarinet's final notes fade into the rhythm of the river, the journey comes to rest, not in silence, but in peace, not in endings, but in the promise that after every storm, calm will return. Thank you for walking through this story. If it stirred you, share your thoughts in the comments. follow along for more, and subscribe so you won't miss the next journey. Your voice keeps these stories alive.